Welcome to VyCast, where we bring a blend of knowledge, expertise, and fun to the world of finance. Stay tuned for our exciting episode packed with insights and practical tips that will help you achieve your financial goals. Thanks so much for joining us today on VyCast. I'm your host, Charlene Shirk. Well, from hospitals to Vegas casinos to everyday people like you and me, if you've got a computer or a smartphone, we are at risk. But just as the cyber bad guys are always coming up with these new ways to get us, there are also some new ways out there that we can protect ourselves from the bad guys and outsmart them. And joining us to help us stay one step ahead of those hackers and those cyber threats is Lisa Cochrane, the Chief Information Officer of VyStar, which includes oversight of VyStar's digital, information security, and technology. Lisa, thanks so much for joining us today on VyCast.
I am happy to be here.
Well, we're excited to talk to you because, wow, this is such a big deal, right? From the big headlines to the everyday people. Folks just want to know that when they go online, their data is protected. So what did you do here at VyStar in your role to make sure that we are protected?
So, as you mentioned, I have the entire technology organization, and a big part of that is our information security organization. So we have a chief information security officer. He has a whole team of people that are working hard every day to keep member information safe. But I also like to do things like this to educate members on things that they can do to help keep their own data safe.
And I know one of the big things is passwords. You just preach you've got to make sure that you change your passwords or make them a little bit more complicated. What are some tips? Because that's the hardest thing, right? We use the same password over and over again because we tend to forget it.
Well, one of the things that makes our jobs hard in technology is that there's a large number of people that use the same password over and over again for multiple accounts. And then they also use common passwords. So the most common password is 1234566, or password is I think number 2.
No.
And people use those, and so that puts everybody at risk because it takes one person getting in on an account. And so I like to educate people on passwords. They don't have to be scary. I know sometimes some of the mobile devices will pop up a default and it's like, I'm never going to remember that. But you can use a passphrase. So you can say something like, my dog is purple, something nobody would ever guess because maybe you don't have a dog and your dog probably isn't purple, but you'll remember it, and you can substitute special characters. So, for example, you could put an exclamation point for eyes and things like that to help you remember. And the longer the password, the harder it is for a hacker to hack. And so it doesn't have to be so complicated that you're never going to remember your password, and it can be something that's specific only to you that nobody else, not even your family, would guess.
Do you have any tips on where to keep track of those passwords?
Yeah, so if you have a hard time remembering them, or you want to be good and have unique passwords, because it's important to have unique passwords for all of your accounts, there's apps that you can get on your phone to store passwords that are encrypted to keep that information safe, and you can use them to copy and paste directly from there. I use an app called Passable that I've used for years that helps me keep my data secure.
Okay, well, if the CIO of VyStar is using that, what did you say? It's called Passable?
Yes.
There's
probably other ones out there.
But that's a pretty good endorsement coming from you. So, obviously we are our own first line of defense when it comes to protecting our security. But another big role you have here at VyStar is educating employees to make sure that they can easily spot any type of security threat that may be coming at VyStar. And I know that I've heard you speak before, and you're like, I don't want to use scare tactics. I want to educate and engage people so that they remember it. So can you share a little bit about what are some of the tactics you use to educate employees at VyStar about how to be able to spot security threats?
Yeah, so our CISO, Carl Scafidi, he likes to say security with a smile. That's sort of his mission because we need everybody to buy into security. And his organization will do phishing tests to make sure our employees understand how to spot phishing emails so they're not clicking on emails that expose us at VyStar as an organization. All of our VyStar employees also annually take education around security. And then in October, it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. This is something that lots of companies do. If you look on social media during that month, you'll see lots of companies doing things for cybersecurity awareness, and we try to make it fun through games and education.
I know I participated in one of the games and I got it right. The answer
Good
was
job.
all of the above, and I got a prize, and I'll never forget that. And, we talk about, not just big companies, but everybody faces security threats every day. And the cost of those scams are in the billions of dollars every year. So we're going to do a test with some real life scenarios of some scams. So these are scams, and then some legitimate communication so that we can see if our folks can tell if it's real or not real. Okay, you ready for the first one?
All right, I'm ready.
All right, so you get a call from your financial institution to verify your account information. Real or not real?
This is not real because here at VyStar, we would never call and ask you for account information that puts your account at risk, especially your password. So you may get a call from VyStar if the fraud department has detected that there's potential fraud and may ask you some questions, but they're never going to ask you for your password or credentials to get into the VyStar app.
Okay, good to know. All right. So you get a notification on your smartphone that there is a software update that you need to download. Real or not real?
Well, that one sort of depends. So, if you're on an iPhone, for example, and you go to the software center and it says software update, that's probably real. But if you get a text message that looks like you're not sure, then you can research, take a minute, pause, assess the situation, and then determine whether it's legitimate or not.
And I tend to Google. I tend to Google to see if there's an update that I need to put on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great tip because whenever there's cybersecurity threats that are well known for like a software update, there's lots of information online about it because lots of companies are doing things to address it.
That's just because I'm so not a tech person. I have to Google everything. So I get into the habit of that. All right. So you receive a text message or an email saying that your package is undeliverable and they want you to click the link they've provided to verify your address. Real or not real?
This one, again, depends, but it's likely not real. I don't know if I've talked to anybody who hasn't been getting text messages and emails that imply that they have a package waiting. It's
I get them all the time.
yeah. So one, if you ordered something and you want to know if your package is undeliverable, go to the site you ordered something from and look at your order history or contact the company directly. Don't click links.
Yeah, don't click links. That always brings up. And that, I think, goes back to your, take a moment, think, assess, don't just click that link.
Yes.
Okay, so you get an email from your credit card company asking you to call them or contact them through the company's website to respond to a fraud alert. Real or not real?
This one is likely real. You should, again, make sure that it's coming directly from the company that you think it is. And you can do that by logging in directly, not clicking links. Because, again, don't click links. You can always type in the URL and see if it leads you to the same place that the link is allegedly leading you to. And so don't click links, but go to your bank or the financial institution or wherever you're are getting asked to contact them, and if they are trying to reach you, you'll be able to tell.
Sometimes I've looked at that link and it's even misspelled, or it's like some weird person it's not even the organization itself that's claiming to contact me.
Right.
Okay, so final question. You are communicating with someone on a social media app or maybe a dating app, and they ask you to send them money so they can buy a ticket and come see you in person. Real or not real?
Well, they probably really want your money, but it's probably not someone that you want to send your money to. Romance scams are one of the largest areas of fraud right now. In 2022, I just read a statistic, $1.3 billion were lost to romance scams. That was reported by the FTC, and the metrics they've collected, over 70,000 people fell victim to romance scams. And, they're very smart, and they understand human psychology, and they know how to tug at your heartstrings. I think people just need to be aware that most likely those are scams.
And you bring up a good point. Like my mom's friends, her email got hacked, and we all got these emails saying that she was traveling and ran out of money and needed help. And then she was getting calls, and my family members were contacting me to make sure she's okay. Man, those things just never go away, do they? That thing just seems to make the rounds all the time.
Yeah, and
people fall for it, and they ask
they
ask for like payment cards. They ask for those money cards, those gift cards, to get them out of a foreign country. That should be definitely a clue.
Yeah, and it saddens me that people are falling for these scams, which is another reason I like to educate people and help them understand how to identify those types of things.
And now you mentioned education. I mean, you are a CIO, and one of the things that you do is you go and you speak to young people about participating in STEM classes, and that is science, technology, engineering, and math, because cybersecurity is a job that falls under that. And obviously, the role of people in cybersecurity is not going to go away as we expand our online opportunities. So can you share a little bit about, just kind of what the job entails and what you talk to kids about, and are they interested in this as a field?
Yeah, so, I really have a passion about making sure there's diversity in technology. I think diversity is really important right now, especially with artificial intelligence and biases. And the more diverse your technology organization is, the more you can kind of remove some of those biases. But it's also personal to me because I grew up in a small town in Nebraska and was lucky enough to take computer science classes and got to travel the world. And, if it was an opportunity for me, I want to make sure other people know that opportunity exists for them. But then the whole cybersecurity angle brings a whole another level of opportunity, because in the U.S. today, there's over 700,000 open cybersecurity roles that people are trying to fill that they can't. In the state of Florida, the last time I looked, there was over 70,000 cybersecurity related roles, and there's lots of different things that you can do in cybersecurity. You don't have to be a hacker. Some people like to be think of it as you're like hacking for good, and that's certainly an aspect of it. But there's project management roles, and there's audit roles and risk roles. There's lots of opportunities for people to have really great careers in.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today. Really, you help break down, I think maybe people feel a little intimidated, about online and what to do, and you really help break it down and make it understandable. And my dog is purple. Don't forget that.
Yes.
That's password phrases. That was a great tip. Thanks so much for joining us today on VyCast.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. And if you'd like some more information on the latest ways to keep your data protected, you go to vystarcu.org at fraud protection. And Lisa and her team have provided all kinds of great information on how you can keep yourself safe. Throughout the year, there are special days and months where we honor the sacrifices that our military members and their families make, the risks they take, the deployments they have, moving from town to town, getting readjusted to different communities. Well, here at VyStar, we honor those sacrifices every single day. And to talk more about that now is Marianne Koliznik. She's Assistant Vice President of Military and Equitable Housing, and Sean Doherty, Vice President and VyStar's Military Liaison. Thank you both so much for joining us today on VyCast.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, it is our pleasure. This is one of our favorite topics to talk about. And Sean, as a military veteran and former naval officer, share a little bit more about your role as a liaison and how that's helped serve the credit union and our military members.
Well, I was honored to have served for 27 years, and I was privileged to have many of the brightest and bravest men and women our country has to offer serve with me. As a military liaison, my primary focus is going to be to foster and strengthen and grow the relationships we have with those military communities here in Central Florida, North Florida, and then in Georgia as well. I'm excited for the opportunity to bring in my experience and just the general support and passion I have for our active duty, the veterans and their families to this job. I'm going to play a vital role for VyStar and making sure that we continue to grow, maintain all these partnerships and initiatives we have to help honor those that have served and those are currently serving.
And Sean, so many years in the military, I'm sure you started fairly young. Can you share a little bit about maybe what are some of the challenges that the younger military members and their families are facing?
Well, the younger members particularly, as with anyone, the financial strengths of being lower on the pay grade scale, associated with having a family, all those type of things. But then you add on that we're deploying, we're supporting our country from afar, and that puts a lot of burdens on those families. Now we got to look at daycares and all kinds of other initiatives that we do. So I'm passionate about making sure that we're taking care of those younger members, particularly all military members as a whole, but it's really the younger generation that I really want to ensure that, because they need the most support. They really do.
That you can mentor up. And Marianne, share a little bit more about our roots, how we started, and how we are addressing those needs, like Sean mentioned about affordable housing and dealing with the cost of living, how we are addressing those needs.
Yeah, so to give you kind of a history, VyStar started over 70 years ago, back in 1952, over at NAS Jax with only 12 members and $60. So we have come a long way. Yeah. And we really started off to serve the civil service members and their families as really we wanted a place that they could save and borrow money safely. So that's really, we're rooted in the military in that aspect. And so because of that, we developed our Military Heroes Mortgage Program back in November of 2021. And that program was really designed with our heroes for our heroes. We really wanted to speak to them, see what they were looking for when it came to purchasing a home, and so we developed that product. And it's really a product that's complementary to the VA home loan. So with Military Heroes, it offers up to 100% financing. We have our closing costs and rate promotion that's included in that. There's some other discounts that the members get when they close with that loan. So we're really proud of that. That we could offer multiple products to our military community. And also because of that product, went over so well, we were able to develop an Everyday Heroes mortgage program, which includes really our members that have occupations with first responders, the medical community, law enforcement, and that sort of thing, and some essential workers too, because they're on the front lines as well. So it was really important to develop a product for them and give back to the community in that sense too.
And it relates to the community. Sean, VyStar is really involved in so many activities that support military members and their families. Can you share a little bit about why that's important, that they live in a community and they see an organization like VyStar that truly is invested in them and their success?
Well, VyStar is good for the community as a whole. We're proud sponsors of many community events, sponsorships, initiatives. VyStar has been a proud sponsor of the Naval Air Station Air Show since 1991. Proud sponsor for the military outreach for the YMCA here. It gives a lot of different programs for our military members, exclusive memberships. We also are supporting the prisoner of war, the Missing in Action Memorial here over at Cecil Airport. And that's just really to honor those that paid the ultimate sacrifice. They went and served our country and haven't returned home yet. We also sponsored the USS Orlick, which is the centerpiece for the Jacksonville Naval Museum. And, we helped finance the refurbishment of the Orlick itself and then the costs associated with moving from Texas here to Jacksonville. We also have other events that we're supporting as a whole. So the University of Florida, the Brain Wellness Program from the Leon Haley. We help sponsor the 10,000 square foot campus and clinic to help to promote the wellness and the mobility, really helping those that had a traumatic injury and getting them back on their feet.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to hear them speak at an event, and not only did they address the injury, but the trauma that comes associated with getting that injury as well.
Yeah, and just think of the families associated with that. Their military member goes off to serve our country, and then unfortunately they pay a price like that, and they have to come back. And it's the family members that have to help support through that evolution as well. So we need to be as strong for those communities and make sure that we're there to help support, because there's a lot of costs, a lot of stress, and a lot of pressures on those families, and of course the members themselves that are suffering. So.
And Mary and Sean mentioned, when they come home, they have that adjustment, whether it's adjusting back from an injury or adjusting back to civilian life and employment. And VyStar also offers a lot of engagement opportunities for military members who are coming out of the military to be able to find a second career, like Sean is here with us as the military liaison for VyStar.
Yes, absolutely. So what's exciting about that is this past year we were designated 2023 military-friendly company, which is really exciting. And, it really speaks to what we do internally in hiring, veterans, military members, and their spouses. So we're really proud of that aspect. We also, we just launched our VyStar Foundation, which was really exciting, and we gave back, I guess I should say, we donated over $200,000 to military organizations this past year. And then what's really neat too is we have our VyStar resource groups, which we have the Vets group, which is VyStar employees that served here, and that's an internal group that focuses on, anybody can join, but it's really focused on military. And within that group, we go out into the community, we volunteer, we have guest speakers come in to really support our military employees.
That's exciting. And, Sean, if I could close with you a little bit about, going back to the history of 12 people with $60 wanting to put their money somewhere safely. Could you give any advice out there to those young military members about why it's important to find an organization, a financial institution, when you're starting out, so that you can build your financial wealth and your financial wellness?
Well, absolutely, and we talk to our military members about this, but it's important that they understand that, one, here at VyStar, we care about our members, and we're going to make sure we take care of all our members, and in particular military members, but we also educate them as well. We want to make sure they understand the value of saving and growing as they continue to grow in life. So whether it's their mortgages, their investments, we educate them on all those different aspects to make sure that they understand how to really move forward in life.
Well, Sean and Marianne, thank you so much for sharing all this great information about what VyStar does for our military members. And if you have any questions, you can always go to vystarcu.org and you can learn all about our military opportunities that we offer. Well, that is going to do it for us today on this episode of VyCast. For more information about cybersecurity or VyStar's military appreciation events or any of your financial needs, head over to vystarcu.org. And please make sure you subscribe to our VyCast podcast or follow us wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. And you can also follow us on VyStar's social media channels. Hey, and give us your thoughts on a topic you'd like us to cover. Thanks so much for joining us today on VyCast, and we look forward to spending time with you next time.